Hey guys, and welcome back to the Devine Witch. So today we are going to go over just a few items that I would suggest using on your Hekate altar. So let's go ahead and dive in. So when building your Hekate altar, it can be a little bit time consuming, a little bit overwhelming, and trying to make sure that you're putting in the right stuff for Hekate in your path. A lot of people will focus on the underworld aspects, but not the other aspects that she's connected with, such as land, the sea, and the sky. Now, I'm going to show you a few things that I personally use in my practice with Hekate. The first one that we're going to go over is the offering bowl. Now, normally offering bowls are where you would put your offerings, right? This one currently is more of a time consuming, energy working offering that I do. Now, if you look in here closely, you will notice that that is an Obsidian Bunny. And you're probably wondering, well, why do I have an Obsidian Bunny? Well, one, it was gifted to me by a beautiful follower. Thank you. And two, this was from Ostera. We passed Beltane, and so forth. So I need to actually change it up, which I'm going to do today. Now, the reason why I did my offering like this is for a few reasons. One, sand itself represents Hekate for her sea aspect. Now, the sand that I got, let me see if I can show you. It's red and black. And I got this just at a Dollar Tree. If you have access to, sand by the water, then you can use that as well. But this is what I got here at the home. Now, what I like to do is fill my bowl. And as the seasons change, occasionally I'll change it. Or I'll just end up layering it throughout the year. And then once I'm done at the end of the year, then I just put it all together and I make jars out of it, whatever may be, to represent Hekate, and I use it to protect the home by burying it into the ground or hanging it around or putting them in places where people or animals are not going to find them. So basically what I do for each holiday, I add a different layer, which as you can see, I add the Beltane, but I do got red sand in here already, if I can show you. So that does represent Beltane. Now, what do I like to do is I like to take my little sand offering bowl, and when I get done filling it up with whatever color I'm adding for that season, I like to put little designs in it. Because for me, I'm taking time, I'm making something pretty that I can always change, always shape, and always, form into what I want. Which while doing this, I'm also putting time and dedication with Hekate herself and recognizing the cleansing aspects of her sea self. So this is just something that I did. You guys can change up the crystals. I used obsidian because obsidian is one of the things that her crystals are known by. But there's a lot of pretty different crystals you can use with her. So this is something that I do. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do you make your designs? What I do is I shake my crystals out one by one. Try to get as much sand off of them as I can. Take my little bunny, scrape him off. Isn't he so cute though? Look at that. The detail on this is just awesome. And I love it. So what I do is I do a light shake. Imagine it like when you're a kid and you got like one of those like Etcho sketches and you're playing with it. So what I'll do is I'll take either matches or something, whatever I got around me. I've used pins before, but I do like to use matches because it's a little bit more easier. So let's say I want to make a design. I can start going ahead making my design in it. And you know, sometimes you may not like it. The great thing about sand is it is forgiving. You can change it, you can morph it, you can add to it. You can do so much with it. And if you want something that's an easy dedication during the times of the full moon, you can do this. It's not something that you have to plan for. It's something that you can put energy in. And you can bring your offering bowl, a statue if you got it ever. And you know, as you're doing it, keeping it in mind, getting some of that moon energy into the sand as well, you know, to heighten the vibrations and stuff like that. So it's just a little fun something that you can do. You know, depending on the time. Like if you don't got crystals, don't worry about it. Just use the sand. Use that as what you're trying to put in. And another thing you can do is when you're doing rituals. So let's say a ritual calls for a sigil and you don't have hardwood carpet, or you know, you got limited space and you're trying not to mess up your place because either deposit or whatever. You can use the sand and actually put your symbols in the sand. So that way you're still being able to be protected, and you can get multiple of these. You can use them for all four corners if you want when you're doing a calling to the corners, quarters, whatever you want to call it. So you can be protected. You can even put designs in here and have it to where, you know, you have them around your house. Put a little succulent in the middle. No one will ever notice. Or if you want to go a little bit extra too, and this is something that you're wanting to do permanently, you don't want to change it, what I would suggest is getting some glue, go ahead and use, like I was telling you, use your stick, kind of outline what you want. Like let's say you want to do a pentacle, okay? So let's say you're doing your pentacle, you got it outlined. You may have to do your star more than once, just to kind of get your baseline going. And you know that's where it's going to be. Then you can go ahead and you can take glue and put in this. And what the glue is going to do is it's going to soak up some of that sand, and then you're going to have this pentacle in it. Then you can either color it, use resin in it to kind of keep everything. I mean, there's probably better ways to do it. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing out some suggestions if you're really crafty and feeling like doing something a little bit different. It's just like Beltane. Recently with Beltane, you could make a mini Beltane pole. So let's say this is my pole, right? I could have had something little here. Maybe took like a... Have you guys ever seen those like little foam balls you could have put on top, have the ribbon down, have the ribbon kind of laying like this all the way around it? Something cool you could have done for Beltane as well. If you didn't do it this year, don't worry about it. You can always do it next year. That's the great thing. Also, another thing with sand, if you want to, I know I'm taking forever with sand, but there is so much that you can do with it with Hekate. So you can take the tips of matches and you can put it into with the sand, also for an added layer of protection, or if you're trying to get something going and you need a little extra oomph, always take this off. Now, I missed the kind that actually had the black tip, and for some reason, the only ones I could find around me locally are the green tips, so that's what I use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my crystals back in here so I can go ahead and go to the next item. But hopefully that inspires you. And then, you know, you're also bringing in that sea aspect, like I said. And with energy, you know, when we think of water, we think of cleansing, we think of rejuvenating, we think of chaos, love, all these other things. So it's a good thing to have on your altar. So the next thing that I want to talk about, which is going to be the simplest one, is this. Now, many of you have seen this. This is protection for Hekate. Now, this piece here itself is very small to go onto my altar. It was made for me by a coven member. They had asked somebody to make it, and they brought it to me, and I got this beautiful piece of art. Now, one thing that you could do if you wanted to, If you got something like this to represent her on your altar, you could go ahead, cut it out. You could get a little glass container, fill it up with resin, pop or a mold and pop it out, and then you got this pretty little thing all the way around. You can hang it on your windows outside, add a couple of charms to it. We might end up doing a wind chime one. I think that would be kind of cool. Kind of show you guys what you can do to bring in more of that Hekate energy into your life. But always try to have at least a symbol of her on your altar. It doesn't necessarily have to be this one. It could be one that she's given to you. But it does, every time you see it, it's going to remind you. You know what I mean? I've even thought about putting it underneath my mats. So when everybody walks in or walks out, they have to walk in with good intent. And whatever bad intent that they have will be left behind. So it's just a little food for thought. This kind of goes in with sigil magic too. This is another thing that you could do. You could take a couple of these, either get them made or make them yourself. I mean, it doesn't have to be this pretty. You know what I mean? You can do it with a Sharpie, whatever. And place it into the sand like I was telling you guys. So, it's the cycles of her. You know what I mean? Especially if you're trying to get duality. So, let's say for you, one side would be the underworld, one side would be the sea, while the other side would be the sky. You know what I mean? And that could be different things for you. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's something cool and something lightweight that you can do. Like, it's just a little thin piece of wood if you look at it. And, I know some people got crickets. You can do stuff like with the cricket, put it over it. You can seal this. You can add stain to it if you wanted to. But me personally, I just like the way this looked and decided to keep it the same. Another thing you can do, especially with this, if you want to do meditation, it could be a focus point in meditation. If you have many crystals, which, give me 1 second. I'm going to grab mine and I'll be right back. So, here's the little crystals. This is actually the hubby's. Forgot that I gave it to him. I had ordered it online, thought it was bigger, and it wasn't. But you could do something like this, put it in the middle. Use it for meditation. Use it to work your energy, to get rid of old energy. You know what I mean? And just kind of do it like that. Now, if you wanted to, and this is totally up to you, as if you weren't going to change it, you could literally glue or put these on here and make it almost like a constellation effect, which these themselves, I think, are like marbles. They have that marble looking texture. I don't believe that they're like 100% crystal, but I may be wrong. Who knows? I mean, whenever you buy stuff online, you don't really know. No, you know what I mean? So, this right here, like I said, it's versatile. You can do things with it. Excuse me. If you did have some, excuse me, 1 second. Some kind of way to keep the heat from hurting it. And like maybe like a clear coating or a couple clear coats or something like that. Maybe heat treat it to where basically it wouldn't burn. When it comes to candles, candle safety, always remember that. Don't leave your candles unattended. But you could put a candle here or a tea candle and just watch it melt down. It's going to be a messy mess, but it would be interesting to see over time. But probably a tea candle would be best since it's got its own little container. You can put it right there in the little circle. Have fun with it. You could also use this as offering to carry offerings from inside to outside, depending on what it is and how big it is. So it is pretty neat. And this is one of the things that I would suggest when you're putting together your altar for Hekate. Now, the next thing that I'm going to tell you, which should be obvious because who we're working with, right? I would suggest when you're working with Hekate, finding yourself a set of keys. Now, many people have seen these and they're like, okay, where did you get these keys? Where did you get them from? They're very pretty. Try to make it to where you can look at each one individually. just to see how it looks, you know what I mean? Like, we got that one. We got this one right here. This one. Now, when I got these at Big Lots. They were actually only like $3 or $4. And actually, it might have been Michael's even. But they are heavy duty. Like, like they're heavy. They're probably about like maybe 2 pounds, maybe a pound, somewhere around there. But I use these as a way for meditation, for spirit summoning, to open doorways in my life, to close doors in my life that I no longer need. You know, to use, like I said, during summonings, no matter if it's Hekate or not. But keys themselves are very versatile, just like we're versatile. So there's a lot of things that you can do with keys. Keys can be for protection, like I said, locking or opening things, selling spell work. Let's say if you're using a scrying mirror, you can actually use a key to lock the mirror. Very symbolic, and it closes that window or that portal into your home. You can do the same thing with a Ouija board or tarot or runes. Put your runes in a bag, lock it. Act like you're doing that locking motion with your key. So another thing that you can do is if you have keys, you can put them over your doorway to unlock new opportunity. When it comes to keys, like I said, the sky's the limit. And you can even take some and put them on keychains. You can put them on your spell jars. You can put them on your whipping sticks, as I call them, but they're really like your staff or whatever. Which, by the way, I'm going to show you guys a staff that my coven made me. I love you guys. Thank you, Ragnar's Riches. But you just gotta keep it simple. As you can tell, a lot of this is simple. It's cheap. It's easy to do. It's not something that you have to do that's lavish. You know what I mean? So just remember, keys have a lot of importance. Now, if you look, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The reason I got 7 on this is 1, because that's the way it came. And 2, 7 is the earthly number for this planet. So it kind of works out. And then I believe in the 7 doorways of Hekate. I know there's a lot of other people who's got different beliefs, but this is one as mine. 7 to me has always seemed like a number that whenever I see it, it has meaning to me. So of course I'm going to put it into my practice with Hekate. So, you know, just kind of make it customized. It doesn't have to be like this. It don't have to look like, you know, you're about to go into a haunted house or about to open the gates to a graveyard. You know what I mean? I just did this because, 1, it's very cool looking aesthetically. And, you know, if I am doing spirit work or if I am doing work that deals with the dead, it does seem very appropriate for it. But you can make keys, you can buy keys, you know, there's a lot of flea markets open where you can get different keys. And, you know, you don't have to buy all at once. That's the thing, too. We get such in a rush to keep on buying and buying and buying that we don't let the things call to us anymore. And that's one thing I want to teach you guys today. No matter what you see here, if something I show you doesn't call to you for your altar, don't feel bad. It's your practice with Hekate. It's maybe different than mine, but these are just me showing you what I've got. It's kind of like a community show and tell, if you will. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to move on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this right here, you're probably wondering, what the hell is this? And if you can tell, these move, by the way. When I was constructing this, I didn't have the right twine, so I made it with wire so that way I can bend it, move it, shape it. I did use red because it just felt right, especially if you look at this. It is Bloodstone Beads. So you're probably asking, okay, what exactly is this in your practice? For me, this is like a rosary, a prayer bead set for me and my goddess. Now, is it done? Oh no. I've got some more things that I want to add and so forth. Now, you're probably wondering why I got these. And I'm going to explain to you my thought process and the symbolism behind it. And you can take it as you will. You don't have to add these to yours. I just did. So, if we look at this like this, and just forget about all this back here. If you look at it like this, it looks like the crossroads. 2 going this way, 1 going this way. And to me, this is a constant reminder to be true to myself no matter which path I choose, and to follow with good intent in my heart. Now, if you look at this, it also has her symbol on it. It's not the most expensive thing in the world, but it is mine. So that's kind of why I put it there as a reminder. And eventually I would like to add a couple more keys, like little itty bitty keys to the end of this. As you can see right there, it's kind of a wiry mess, but I do plan to add some keys to it as well. Now, I chose Bloodstone because it's what called to me. To me, when I work with Hekate, I work with everything. The blood inside of my body works with Hekate. That's my doggie. I don't know if you can hear her. She's upset because she's upstairs and not down here. But I also used twine to kind of hide the wire and keep it from poking me as well. But as I was saying about the stones themselves, I use Bloodstone because in my mind, I am part of Hekate. And it's in my blood, and it won't go away until the day, I pass on and I get to, meet her in the Great Divide. But I use this to help me keep focused, or in times where I'm stressed, I'll, rub on the beads themselves to try to keep me centered. I keep this on our altar. I also use this during rituals that are going to be intense as well, kind of as a multifaceted thing. If I want to, I can keep it around me. I can hold it in my hand. It's something that I can use for protection if I'm in trance work or if I'm doing astro travel via meditation. And it just gives me something physical to hold here while I'm doing my spiritual work somewhere else on a different plane. So, when it comes to this, what I would suggest if you're going to make your own, one, make sure you have the right materials and you're not gung-ho like me with no patience. So, unless you want something that you can bend and hold and always reshape, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be strong. It's going to take a lot to really break this. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I would suggest looking for the stone that represents her, that speaks to you. To me, this spoke to me, and I figured, why not? So I went ahead and I made it. Now, you can do different colored beads. You can do some obsidian in with it. You can do some bloodstone in with it. Whatever beads, you can mix and match. It don't matter. It's your practice, right? But I did want to show you this because prayer is part of my devotion. And I feel like it's something that's not talked about enough. When you think prayer, at least in my mind, it's more of a Christian aspect. But realistically, for me, this is how I communicate. I do my prayers every night. I, do my thanks every night. And it's something that when I see it on the altar, when I need it the most, I'll pick it up, I'll hold it, and it helps recenter me and helps give me the energy, of Hekate. If I feel like I'm walking into a situation where I'm not protected, I will have this on me, and it will help protect me. And if you notice, I don't know if you can hear it, it also makes a pretty sound too. So, that can help with if you're trying to make ritual music like I have been, or you just like a sound when you're in that trance work or meditation work, and you can sit there and shake it or whatever. It just depends on you. And this is just part of my personal practice. So, you don't have to do this. It's just something that I do. You can even make smaller ones. You can have it like a bracelet that you can wear. You can get some chainmail, have it incorporated in chainmail as well. Of course, the chainmail would have to be really small just to get through the bead holes, but it is possible. So, remember, if you're going to work with Hekate, prayer is always a good thing. It helps us get rid of the things that we no longer need and offer them up to her and to get her guidance in return. And plus, if you're in stressful situations and you're the type of person like I am that needs to have something in their hand when they're stressed out, you know what I mean? It goes dual hand in hand, you know what I mean? It's something that you can use every day. Like I said, you don't have to go like this. You don't have to go this long. I'm always the type, go bigger, go home. But it is what it is. So I'm going to pause this for a second and we're going to go on to the next thing. So as you can tell, the next thing that I want to talk about is bones. Now this, if you can see, it got broke at one point in time from here to here. And that sucks, but it is what it is. This right here is just something that I got at a show. It called to me and was like, this needs to go on Hecate's altar. Bones are very, very, very important when you're working with Hekate, because this represents the underworld part of Hekate, the darker aspects, the spiritual work, and things like that nature. Now, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can have skulls like this, or if you don't want something to look as macabre as this, you can do grinding of bones as well. You can get little miniature bones. You can even get reptile skin. Just something that I got because to me it fits the aesthetic of the altar that I have. And also it reminds me of duality, because on my altar I believe there's a balance when working with Hekate between her light side and her dark side, and it kind of comes in between, you know what I mean? That's where you get that gray area of spectrum with her in my eyes. So, when I have my bones on display on her altar, which is all year round. I don't do it just for one holiday. I do it for all. You can even buy some and put symbols. You can go ahead and get either Sharpie or paint. If you're doing paint, I would suggest acrylic, because if you do oil, it's never really going to dry all the way, just so you know. But you can put symbols and stuff like that if you wanted to, and you're more of a girly girl type. In my opinion, that's how I put it. No offense to anybody. Or more of just, you like to see things pop. You could put like little gemstones, crystals, stuff like that. And it just makes it customized for you and your altar. Some things that you can also do with this is if you have a cone incense, and depending on how your stuff is made, you can make it to where it looks like the smoke's coming from the skull. It just depends on you and your practice. Now, other ways that you can use bone, like I was talking about, you can grind up bone, and you can either place that on your altar in like a little cup or whatever. Now, you're probably asking, how the fuck do I grind up bones, right? Well, I got you. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get you some bones. Now, the easiest way that I find is chicken bones, just because I can get a whole chicken for $6, feed my family, get all the bones, boil them again to get all that old excess meat and whatever else off of them, strain them, clean them, set them out either in the sun or bake them, dry them, and then crush them up to use them for protection for my home, to use them for summoning, to use them in whatever I so choose to within my little dark heart. So, you can do the same thing. You know what I mean? You can use it as protection. You can use it for baneful magic. It just really depends on you. And, plus, if we are talking about Samhain, it does look aesthetically pleasing to have some bones and stuff because we are around that time working with the dead a lot more. If you're not like me and you don't do spirit work all the time. So, this is just something that you can do. You can have on your altar. You can always move it. It's not like it's something that needs to stay there forever. And it's just something that I would suggest. It doesn't even have to be this. It can be anything you want. Some people will get snake heads and things like that. It just depends on you. Now, me personally, frog bones would be another good one. I don't have any, but that would be something in the future I'd like to get to put on her altar. Just for the reason being that whenever I see her in nature, I see frogs, which goes more into the Egyptian aspect of things. So I'm going to pause this video, and then we're going to go to the next thing. So this is the final thing that I'm going to bring up, and to you all, this seems pretty simple. But one thing that I would highly suggest, since she is a triple goddess, is to have some type of triple aspect on your altar. This is the triple aspect that I chose. It's my bell. I can use this for cleansing. I can use it for getting me in the right mind state. I can use it for summoning if I want. And, it just kind of, it's small enough that I can carry it around if I need to do a mini altar. And, it's whatever. It's easy to grab, easy to use. Now, bells themselves depends on what your path is. Some think it gets rid of spirits. Some think it brings in spirits. But idealistically, in my opinion, I see it like this. It's whatever you put into it. So when we have magical tools that we use, we decide the intent that they're going to be used for the moment that we buy them or we obtain them. And me personally, this is a duality, just like everything else. It's to cleanse, it's to bring in, and, everything in between. But you can also have it set up to where one day this is for cleansing, the other day it's not. You know what I mean? It just depends on you and what you do. Now, we've all heard everybody talk about, hey, you need to have wands. A wand helps you, gives you control when you're pointing at something. Once you've either mixed it, or let's say this is a candle, you're going over your candle clockwise if you're wanting to bring it in, counterclockwise if you're wanting to get rid of it, side to side, all that fun jazz. You would use it almost like you would like a sage bundle, or you could even use it like if you're cleansing a cup, so to speak. And this is one of the most underrated things that I see within our community. In my opinion, you don't really hear a lot of people talk about their wands. You don't really hear people talk a lot about wand magic itself and the things you can do. Now, this is selenite. It is, if you can tell, a pretty decent piece. I mean, probably about 6-8 inches, maybe 5 at the smallest. But this right here, if you look at it real close, this was just a pendant for a necklace that I decided was so beautiful, and I wanted to give it to Hekate. Now, the question was, how the fuck was I going to put it on there? And as you see, we figured out that dilemma with wire. Now, wire, is like everything else in the world. It can keep memory and things like that. Now, I will admit I don't use my wand very much, but I do keep it on the altar just when I need it. But, you can use wands and bells to cleanse, to point, to cast your spells. If you're somebody, like I said, who likes things physically in their hand, when you're doing something and you want to put something to focus on that you can physically touch, my thought process is the energy goes out through these horns, goes in the direction where I needed it to go. So this is what I would suggest for you guys as far as like altar pieces, not like just candles and all this and that. We can get into all that later. But these are the starter suggestions I would suggest. Now, there is one more thing I do want to show you before I end this, because I think it's appropriate. There is one more thing that I would suggest as a bonus to add to your altar. But don't feel bad if you can't do it right away. You know, it takes years sometimes for people to be able to obtain certain things because we got bills, life, everything else. So hold on one second, and I'm going to show you the last thing I would suggest for your altar. Now, I'm holding it this way so that way you guys can get a good view, but we will also go into detail as well. Now, I like this. It was given to me by my coven. You guys are amazing. Thank you. And the reason I like it is because it brings in a lot of aspects for Hekate. Now, you can hand make some out of polymer clay. You can do whatever, baby. You don't have to have this one. You can find one that's customized, or you can print one with those little printers and stuff like that. But this one's mine. And I like it because she's got the crown. To me, that represents the sea. Then we got this guy right here, which to me represents her torches. The snake itself, you know, women who've always been powerful always have a snake represented, and it's very well known, especially within the Greek pantheon as well. Now, you see the RX that's on her. So that's for medicine, which if you don't know anything about Hekate, and this is your first video, hello, nice to meet you. She is all about learning every aspect of magic. So, you know, with everything else, no matter what it is, you always got to put in the medical side of like herbs, healing, things like that. So I love that that was represented in the statue. If you look down here, there's a lot of pretty designs. This is designs that were by choice of the actual maker themselves. So just kind of keep that in mind if you would. But if you look at, if it'll show, there is actually a pentacle on her forehead. Now, this pentacle, it's funny because that's oil that I had on it that makes it glisten. But the pentacle itself is it's just pretty. It's an added detail, you know what I mean? There is, if you also look at her stomach, I don't know if you can see it very well. By the way, this stuff right here I've tried to get off, and I don't know what it is, so it's not coming off. But if you look at her stomach, if you can, try to make it to where you guys can see it, there actually is the triple symbol on her stomach as well. So it is a very pretty statue. And if you look at this, this is another thing that I just now noticed that's very pretty. Maybe I'm just going to have to go through this and clean it off really well. But there is a pentacle, and it's got wings, and I just think it's beautiful. Which, for me, I've got a lower pentacle tattoo, so to me, it feels like I'm directly connected to her from the statue. But, you know, when it comes to statue, oh my goodness. She's got a couple horns missing. I didn't even notice that. Tisk, tisk, my children. Over time, remember, statues sometimes lose some things, but it's still got all the symbolism I need. So, you know what I mean? But remember, when it comes to statues or anything like that, you don't have to have this one. It's not that big of a deal. Get things on your own time, and, you know, it'll all come out good in the end. So hopefully you guys like this video. If you would, take the time, drop a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Because if you hit the notification bell, it gives you all those good notifications. And thank you for joining me over here at the Devine Witch for what to put on your Hekate altar. Till next time, guys. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Devine Witch. So, a lot of you have been requesting videos on Hekate. And I figured before we dive too deep, you know, coming from,